Just to this, I was introduced to this quote, I would say probably when I was in my late 20s. And it really makes sense to me. I'll let you read it. And I'm just curious. Would love to get your thoughts on what this quote means to you. And there is no wrong answer. It's pretty self-explanatory, but everyone interprets quotes differently. But when you read this quote, what does it tell you? What does it say to you?
Um, I feel like for myself, the quote feels more so being financially prepared for the future because I have probably a year of college left and gonna have to start paying off college debt and stuff like that.
Okay, being financially prepared for the future. So once you graduate, you got to pay back all of those loans and everything, and you want to have a debt-free future. So that's good. Anybody else? What does this quote say to you?
To me, it says that to have a successful future, planning is required.
To have a successful future, planning is required. I like that. And for some of you, if you are shy, you can always type in a comment box and I can read them, as we kind of go along. But I do believe that the future belongs to those who prepare for it. And so with Delta Sig, we're all trying to get you ready and set for the future, but it's all about preparation. That's why we have these webinars. That's why we have all of these exciting conferences that are coming up in the spring, the resources, the weekly meetings that you have at your university. Is all getting you ready and set for the future, because preparation is what gives us confidence, but it also sets us up for the future. So this is a little bit about me. I'm originally from Palmer, Arkansas, born and raised. And I was once a kid, but I'm very grateful and blessed to have become a man, to become a grown-up, to become a professional. Um, I am not from Des Moines, Iowa. As you can see, my name is somewhat spelled exactly like the city, but without the S's. But I like to go by my cool name, which is Demo. So if any of you are planning on going to the Chicago conference, I'll be there. Please say what's up, Demo. But uh, if you do have any comments, got any shout outs at the end, refer to me as Demo. That's my cool name. It makes me feel young. It keeps me going. But I want to start out by reminding you of who you are. As a business, professional business fraternity, because sometimes if we forget what we stand for, we'll tend to fall for anything. So understand that you are a part of something special that's setting you up to do special things. Remember, you're the nation's first and top co-ed professional fraternity. And so in terms of being inclusive, this should set you up to be inclusive once you get ready for the world, because as you know, we live in a very diverse world, but in society, as we all know, things are very divided, but this fraternity helps you to understand what it means to be united. So I just wanted to remind you of what you stand for, but also what this organization is trying to do, prepare you to be ethical leaders in careers. And so not just to get a job, but to get a career, but to be leaders. But most importantly, leadership, diversity, service, professional learning, these are all things that this fraternity provides. It's a great resource. And it's just an encouragement for all of you to stay engaged, stay connected, because as a resource, it'll help you to be a resource in the future. And then just other things that I just wanted to just bring up, you know, I always do my homework, before I do any type of presentation. And these are all things, if you go to the website, all of the different areas, these are all 5 muscles that the fraternity is trying to get you to build, trying to get you to grow, trying to get you to have. Because the more muscle you have, the more strength you have to be ready and set for the future. So everything that this fraternity stands for, what they're trying to do, they're trying to equip you, they're trying to build you up. And so there may be moments where you may feel like the fraternity is calling you out. I would like to more rephrase it and say, there are many times when the fraternity is trying to call you up. And so that's the difference between this fraternity and other fraternities and other organizations. This fraternity is all about calling you up to be leaders, calling you up to embrace and reflect what it would take to be successful in our society without becoming society. Because right now the norm wants to tell us it's okay to be negative, it's okay to be rude, it's okay to be divided, it's okay to be inappropriate, it's okay to be selfish. But based on these muscles right here, if you continue to allow these opportunities to build you, to give you the right muscle, you'll be able to be sustainable in whatever you do in the future. So a little bit about me. So I got my bachelor's and master's degree at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, currently working on my PhD. While I was at the university, I was a football player, student athlete, played a little NFL, played a little Canadian, played a little arena, did that for about 6 years. And then I had to get a real job. I thought football, that was my dream. And so I got my first job at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln as a program coordinator. And then I ended up getting an opportunity in Omaha, and I worked for the Omaha Public School District office as a coordinator. Then I had this opportunity to work at this nonprofit called Teammates Mentoring, and I was the post-secondary coordinator. Then I had an opportunity, actually January 2020, and I worked at the University of Nebraska Foundation as a development director. And just recently, I would say about 3 months ago, Teammates reached out and an opportunity presented itself for me to come back to be the CEO. So it's a pretty big deal. And as you can see, this is kind of my journey. Now, most people would say, Des Moines, your success came from your degrees, or it's because you played football, or it's because you played pro, this and that. I'm very humbled and grateful to actually lead by serving this nonprofit called Teammates Mentoring. But honestly, all of those things that I just mentioned were not the things that helped me to get that position. Most of you would think that just because you get a college degree, that equals a career or a job after you graduate. That wasn't the case for me. Because even though I had 2 degrees, once I got done chasing the dream of football, and once that dream started loving me, I had a hard time getting my first job. And so I'm going to share with you why I had a hard time getting that first job as we go through this. But just know that it takes more than just your college degree, your master's degree, even your PhD to get that career, because research, and this actually is a study that came from Harvard University, 59% of business decision makers and 62% of higher ed administrators gave recent college grads a C grade or lower when it comes to career readiness in their first job. So to kind of break that down, what companies and colleges are saying is that there are a lot of students who are graduating from college that are not career ready. They have this degree, but they don't know how to work. They don't know how to work with people. They don't understand work ethic. They don't understand how to manage their time or manage their emotions. So these are pretty high percentages, and a C, that's barely passing, which should let you know, as I mentioned, it's going to take you more than just a college degree to prepare yourself for the real world, to get that job. So that's why tonight we're going to spend time focusing on what it means to be career ready, to be ready and set for the future. It all starts with this ideal of career readiness. And so I provided a definition for you to see, for you to read, give you about 5 seconds. And pretty much it's a process, as you can see. Certain skills that companies are looking for. Let me admit somebody, boom. So you're going to notice a couple things throughout this PowerPoint presentation that I've highlighted certain things in red for a reason. And so these are some areas of career readiness in terms of communication, critical thinking, emotional intelligence. I love this area, by the way. Just out of curiosity, can anyone tell me your definition of emotional intelligence? Remember, conversation, not just a presentation. What's your definition of emotional intelligence?
I would say a good, well, my opinion is that reading other people's emotions, seeing how they feel when they're working in a certain situation, and knowing how they feel, treat them in a way that's respectful.
That's a really good answer. Really good answer. Because there's a saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so when we can lead with compassion and be able to connect with how someone is feeling, that's a breakthrough. Anyone else want to give it a shot? Because this is key, one of the key skills that college grads will need to be successful, or even to have the opportunity to get a successful job. Let me go back, boom. Does anyone else want to take a shot?
I would say, like, obviously being able to read other people's emotions, but also understanding your own emotions and like where those emotions are coming from and what they mean to you, as well as
Ooh,
people around you.
that is good. That's a good one. Self-awareness, managing your own emotions, your anger. I would definitely encourage you all when we're done with this to do some homework on this whole concept of emotional intelligence. It is a game changer. It's something that I talk on a lot. It's something that I live by. It's one thing to have that IQ, but let me just say, from kindergarten all the way through college, I would say schooling demands about 75% of your IQ, but only 25% of your EQ. But once you graduate, once you get into the world demands 75% of your EQ and only 25% of your IQ. So having that emotional intelligence, which is actually a part of being career ready, is a game changer. But these are all examples of what it means to be career ready. And in other areas that will help you to get career ready, of course, I highlighted internship, is that experience. Because experience is the best teacher. It's one thing for you to take all of these classes to get these credits to have that degree. But once you start or even prepare for that first job, it's going to take more than just showing your college degree and your top 5 strengths. You're going to have to bring something to the table in order for you to find, acquire, maintain, or even grow within a job. So I just want to encourage all of you. It's one thing to get a job at McDonald's or In and Out over the summer, but if you can get some real life experience working around real people face to face, not just FaceTime or Facebook or Zoom, which I know that's what we're doing today, but that face to face, at the end of the day, when, not if, but when things get back to normal, that is still the way, and that is still the game changer, and that is still the expectation of how you interact with another person. So a couple of quotes from the U.S. Department of Education, just so that you can know what people are saying about this whole career readiness. You know, one person said provide students with a competitive edge when it comes to not just getting a job, but before you get a job, you got to interview, even for internships. And so being career ready, having the ability to communicate, to problem solve, having that emotional intelligence, knowing how to carry yourself in a professional way, being in this professional fraternity, this is what will give you that competitive edge, especially when you try to get into the door to get that experience. But also that this career readiness is the difference between a good employee and a great one. So it's one thing to be good, but this return is trying to set you up to be great. It's one thing to get the job done, but if you want to get the job won, it starts by being career ready. And then also, another quote, students need to be prepared to compete in a world that demands more than just the basic skills. And I really like this word compete, because compete, that's the difference between those that give their best effort versus those that give their best excuse. Compete is simply when you get up in the morning and that person that you look at in the mirror, that's your competition. It's always you versus you. Will you give your best effort or will you give your best excuse? Those that give their best effort, they give more. They stand for more. They go above and beyond. They don't just get by, they get better each and every single day. And when it comes to having that competitive edge, when it comes to the difference between why they select you to get a job versus someone else, both individuals have college degrees, but their game changer is being able to compete, especially knowing that there are going to be thousands of students that are going to graduate in December and in May. How are you going to stand out? What's going to make you different? What's going to make you that better candidate than somebody else? Well, what's going to make you better is you have to be better. You have to be able to show that you can contribute more. And it's going to take more than just a college degree. And so there are essentially, if you go to the website for the U.S. Department of Education, 11 career readiness standards. Now, I'm just going to give you about 10, 15 seconds to read these 6. As I mentioned, I like to highlight certain things. So applies appropriate academic and technical skills. So it's more than just the academics. To be career ready, it's going to take not just the IQ, but the EQ. It's one thing to communicate, but communicating appropriately, especially when most of our time we're communicating on this thing. And I guarantee a lot of our communication can sometimes be inappropriate, and we have no idea that we're being inappropriate because guess what? We model what we follow. And so that's a whole different subject. But in terms of how we have become followers based on what's on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat, we got to be careful and mindful that as we get ready and set, we got to know the difference between what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. Because the LOL, the OMG, the XOXO, when it comes to communicating to your boss or your manager, or trying to convey yourself in a way that will allow you to be professional, you got to know the difference. And right now, just because something is normal doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. And so this is another topic, but I just want to just throw that out there that we are living in a time where our communication, it may seem normal, but sometimes it can be inappropriate if we're not being careful about what we're following, because we model what we follow. Contribute to employer and community success. And so it's more than just you. How can you contribute not just to your employer, but to the world? How can you use your role to be a role model? A lot of careers are looking for that. Making sense of problems and persevering through them. There will always be problems. Right now, COVID-19 is a problem. And there are many other problems in our society. Either we can talk about the problems or we can find solutions. To be career ready, it's important to be able to be a problem solver, which takes me to the next thing. Critical thinking. It's one thing to think, but to think critically, to actually be intentional, to actually look at the different scenarios. And I want to pause. And I'm curious, what does critical thinking mean to you? Because we do a lot of thinking, but when it says being a critical thinker, which is a career readiness standard. What does it mean to be a critical thinker? And there are no wrong answers. Conversation. We're all fraternity brothers. I'm gonna start picking on people. I'm gonna pick on you, Kaylee. Kaylee, what is critical thinking to you?
I guess it's just kind of going beyond thinking, beyond like what the surface level knowledge is, kind of dig a little deeper, be like, yeah, this is the answer, but why is that the answer? And how did you come to that answer?
Love it, love it. It's like you're really just really using that left brain and that right brain. You're not just taking an answer, but yeah, really digging deep, digging through, asking why. I love it. And not to just keep going on, but the last thing demonstrates innovation and creativity. So I like this one because to me, this should make you feel good because what they're saying is they don't want people, companies, jobs, careers, they don't want all individuals thinking the same, acting the same, dressing the same, doing the same thing. They're looking for different and unique gifts and talents, which hopefully that'll give you this sense of relief that they're looking for you to be yourself. All of you have different gifts. All of you have different unique strengths and talents. And so they want you to be able to express that, not to try to be somebody else. That is why it is so important as you continue to go through this career development is don't make the mistake of not setting personal goals for yourself. Because as you can see, number 10 manages personal career development. Personal. Because if you don't set personal goals for yourself, you will find yourself comparing yourself with someone else. And how can you ever reach your full potential if you're too busy trying to be like somebody else? So that's just a nugget as I transition to these last 5. But modeling ethical leadership, and we're going to talk about this more. It's one thing to have leadership, but you got to understand that leadership can simply be, because leadership is about influence. So the music that we listen to, that's leadership. If it influences you to dance and to sing the lyrics, that's leadership. And we all know that if leadership is about influence, think of some people out there that have influence. Maybe it's some people that's on TikTok that influence people to smoke, to get high, to get drunk, or to go out and steal, to go out and hurt somebody. That's influence. They may think that's leadership. So I want to point that out. There's a reason why it says ethical leadership, because so many people think they have leadership, but is it right? Are you leading with integrity? Are you leading by using your role to be a positive role model, not just any type of role model? Works productive in teams and have being culturally competent. So I want to pause because, as I mentioned, we live in a very diverse world. What does it mean to be culturally competent?
I would say to be like, understand different cultures and understand that not everyone is the same person as you and that everyone is different, and understand just different like ways of thinking and things like that, with everyone surrounding you.
Love it. Great answer. I'll give you an example. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm originally from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I grew up in inner city, also known as the hood. And in the hood, everyone looked like me. Living in Lincoln, Nebraska, not everybody looks like me. But I'm actually very thankful that I got my education here because I can still go back to Pine Bluff, Arkansas and be Des Moines, Pine Bluff. But when I'm in Nebraska, I've learned how to be culturally competent, knowing that it's nice to be around people that think differently. It's nice to have friends that look different than me and still respect them. It gives me a broader perspective. It allows me to be this all around individual. So no matter what state I go to, I can be able to carry myself and get along with all people, not just some people. It allows me not to be biased. It allows me to be relatable. And so this is something that will help all of you, regardless of where you come from. I would encourage you, if you grew up, or maybe you are in an environment where you are around a lot of people that think like you, that look like you, that act like you, expand your horizon. As you think about internships, go somewhere where you can be around people that are different. It's definitely going to serve you well in the future. It's serving me as being the CEO for this nonprofit, because what if, just what if I chose, I'm only going to think the way that Pine Bluff, Arkansas taught me how to think. That would not serve me in this position, because I have to work with other people that don't look like me, that don't think like me, but it allows me to relate to them because of this concept of being able to demonstrate that not only do I understand the different cultures, but I'm competent and I'm relatable. And that's where the teamwork comes in, being able to work as a team. And most people, when we hear the term team, we tend to go to sports, football, basketball, or baseball. But team, being a part of a team is about working together toward one common goal. And I think this is somewhat important to kind of highlight, because as I mentioned earlier, we live in a society now that is very divided, and there's no teamwork. It's Black people versus white people. It's protesters versus police. It's Democrats versus Republicans. It's vaccinated versus unvaccinated. It's people that wear masks versus people that wear no masks. It's like you got to be on this side or this side. Where's the teamwork? Well, regardless of the norm, that's why this fraternity is trying to set you up in a different way. That norm is not the Delta Sig norm. The Delta Sig norm is helping you to understand that it's both. There are Black and white students in this fraternity. There are Republicans and Democrats in this fraternity. There are this and that. You see where I'm going? That is what it means to be a part of a team. You are a part of a team. This fraternity is teaching you exactly what it means to be career ready. And utilizing technology is more than just using this thing. It's about knowing the difference between Zoom, but then also, hate to call you up, but one of the things that you will have to do when you have a real job is to be able to show your face. Now, I'll give you a pass on this one. You know, my guy, is it Ed Dungo? Am I saying that right? He's showing his face. I'm gonna give you guys some grace, but I do want you to know, and this is my way of calling you up, that most jobs, most careers, especially most classes, they expect to see your face. So just throwing it out there in terms of utilizing technology. I get it. COVID-19, you know, we had to do so much behind the screen, but in the future, the next webinar that you have, I just want to call you up to be able to show your face. Maybe some of you weren't prepared, you don't got your hair right, or maybe you're taking a nap, you're tired, it's been a long day, I get it. But just understand that in this game called life, you always got to bring it. Always strive for excellence, regardless if you're in person or via Zoom. And these other two things, I already talked about career development, and then also the well-being, because remember this, your well-being will always lead to your well-doing. So out of these 11 things, and guess what? We're almost done. there are 5 that I want to focus on, because I feel like out of those 11, and the way that I have positioned them are really the most important, because the number one characteristic that jobs and companies are looking for, the number one is leadership. That's the number one characteristic that they're looking for. So however you are drafting your resume, whatever you're putting on it, make sure you are highlighting leadership. Make sure you're exercising your leadership and how you influence people, how you use your role to be a role model, what you do with your platform. Because if you have some type of social media account, guess what? You have an opportunity to model leadership. Now, but not just any type of leadership. Is it ethical? So understand that jobs these days, they will go to your social media page. If you apply, they will go to your LinkedIn. They will see how you are modeling, not just leadership, but is it ethical? But then also effective management. So at the end of the day, you have to be able to manage yourself. It's you versus you. And how do you do it effectively? How do you do it ethically? Leadership is what will get you in the door, is what will keep you in the door. That is the separator between the good and the great, those that get a good job, those that get a good career. Questions about what it means to model ethical leadership and effective management. Because leadership is the number one characteristic that careers are looking for. Let's brainstorm, let's troubleshoot. Thoughts, comments, questions about knowing that this is more important than one's degree. Feel free to make comments in the chat as well. I'll get to those once we're done. But to me, based on my experience, based on what I'm hearing out there, what jobs are looking for, what internships are looking for. They're looking for leadership. So you got to ask yourself, how can I begin to practice and exercise my leadership so that I can be able to model it? Ethical leadership. Second thing, making sense of problems and persevering in solving them. Everybody is good at talking about the problems, but also there are a lot of people that are not interested in doing anything about the problems. So being a problem solver is important, because no matter what career field you go to, whether it's business or journalism or agriculture or engineering, whatever business that you go into, whatever career field, the medical field, problems will come up. And what will you do? What will you do when a problem comes up? It's kind of like in the game of football. To me, problems is somewhat like that defensive player that knocks you down, that tackles you, that gets in the way of you trying to achieve a certain goal. It becomes an inconvenience. And what do you do when you get tackled? What do you do when someone gets in your way? Are you going to just quit? Are you going to just get startled and not know what to do? There's always a solution to every problem. So being able to persevere. Notice it says persevere, because there are times when problems come up in our life, when we may get tackled with bad news. We may feel like we're getting knocked down with discouragement or discouraging results. We may get hit with things that are out of our control based on our circumstances. We got to be able to have that resiliency to persevere and solve them. Sometimes simply not giving up, that helps you to solve a problem. Questions, thoughts on making sense of problems and persevering. The difference between having a fixed mindset and having a growth mindset. Does anyone know the difference? Can anyone tell me what you know about growth mindset? And I'm gonna start picking on folks, so let me scroll down. Gabby, tell me your thoughts about growth mindset. If you haven't heard,
Um, I think that just means like being willing to grow and like have an open mind about things and kind of see where it takes you.
I like that. Being willing to grow, have an open mind, which means that when a problem comes up, you don't just close your mind, you keep it open and you try to work it out, right?
Yes.
All right. Megan, what about you? Tell me your thoughts when it comes to making sense of problems. Why is this important?
It's important to make sense of problems so that way you get that way you make sure that you're getting the full understanding of what's going on. So maybe you would start by dissecting them. Did I answer your question?
Yes, no, thank you. Thank you. Sounds like there was a horn or something in the background, so I got a little distracted.
I'm actually in my car because I'm about to walk into a football game. So
Wow. Well,
so I have.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining before you go into the football game, and we're actually almost done. But
Okay.
I do want everyone to understand that this is something that is important as you get ready and set for what happens after college. Problems will come up, and companies are looking for adults, professionals who can make sense of problems and not get startled, but be problem solvers. But to be a problem solver, you got to be a critical thinker. Now, we've I think I put some people on the spot already when it comes to being a critical thinker, but it's actually really getting deep and taking the time to think, because we live in a time to where we allow people to do the thinking for us. As I mentioned, society right now, they want us to pick a side. It's either you're against us or you're for us. But at the end of the day, we have to take ownership. We have to stand for something. And so one of the things that can help you to be a critical thinker is to take advantage of the resources that Delta Sig is giving you. They are helping you to be critical thinkers because they're challenging you. They are asking you to do things that society, they're not doing. And I can go back to the slide when it comes to making sure that you are being ethical, making sure that you are being diverse, making sure that you are confident and that you work as a team. These are all things that are against or that are, it makes you an outlier. And that's good because you should always be a critical thinker, because if you're not being a critical thinker, you're being a follower. And remember, Delta Sig is a leadership fraternity, and leaders don't create followers, leaders create leaders. And so that's what we're doing here. And so when it comes to thinking, we got to think for ourselves, is what I'm trying to say when it comes to being a critical thinker. The fourth thing that I feel that should go in the top 5 as we wrap this thing up is communicate effectively and appropriately. We have to be able to understand what it means to be appropriate. We got to be able to understand what it means to dress appropriately, but just the way that we communicate so much on this thing right here. And I hate to keep pointing this out, but this thing controls the way that we think, the way that we behave, the way that we communicate. We get out what we put in. So if what you are putting in is this information that you're seeing, that you're reading, that you're hearing, it's going to affect the way that you communicate with others. And so we got to make sure that we separate ourselves at some point from this thing to face. So going to your weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings as a Delta Sig group at your chapter will help you to be around others so that you can actually know what it means to communicate effectively, but also appropriately. Because right now, people think that it's okay to be inappropriate, but you would not get a good job. You would not be career ready if you don't take the time to be around people that are professional, invest in going to one of these conferences that are coming up, but just taking the time to be around other fraternity brothers. And then the last thing, and you've seen this earlier, and we already spent some time on it, but the importance of knowing how to work as a team, regardless of your background, your experience. We got to be able to put those things aside when it comes to achieving a certain goal, a common goal. And all jobs have a goal. And so this is bigger than football, basketball. Of course, there's always a goal in sports. And in order to be successful, you got to work as a team. It's the same thing when it comes to this game called life. But also, we got to understand that regardless of where you come from, you may come from a place where it was all people that look like you, that thought like you, that act like you. But when you get into the real world, it's very diverse. So you got to start learning and understanding and respecting other cultures, being inclusive. And that's one of the things that drew me to Delta Sig as an honorary member of this fraternity, is how inclusive this fraternity is. My first experience of Delta Sig is when I was one of the keynote speakers at the Denver conference in February 2020. And the inclusiveness that I saw, college students coming from all over, all types of race, ethnicities, gender, sex. I loved it. And it let me know that Delta Sig is the place to be when it comes to getting you ready and set. But tonight, it was all about helping you to understand one thing. And this is the most important thing, that jobs, companies, they are grading college grads with a C based on their career readiness. Well, what are they saying? They're saying that these students have these college degrees, but they don't know how to work. They don't know how to manage their time. They're not critical thinkers. They don't know how to demonstrate interpersonal communication. They don't have interpersonal skills. They lack emotional intelligence. They're not critical thinkers. They don't model leadership. That's what they're saying. And so you can either be a part of that statistic, or you can change the game and create your own statistic. And so I want to close by saying this: the way that I started is how I want to finish. The future belongs to those who prepare for it. So my last and final question before I let you guys go, and as I told Miss Jasmine, I wasn't planning on keeping you the whole hour, but I did want to make sure that I sparked up a conversation to make sure that this is not just a webinar that you attend, but it's an opportunity for you to exercise your leadership. It's an opportunity for you to build the right muscle that you need so that when you graduate from college, you have that muscle to get a career and you are prepared and you are competitive. So questions, thoughts, comments? Jasmine, I'm going to pick on you since you were the first face that I saw. I'm going to pick on you. Tell me your thoughts, your takeaway from tonight as I plug up my computer.